Hi there, welcome to my channel. Thanks for coming back to join me. Today, as you saw in the title, we're going to talk about the how and the why I left my last job. So, a little bit about the work that I used to do. I used to work at an education nonprofit, and at this organization, I got to lead national programs for people who were interested in becoming public servants through their professional work. So they were looking to transition into new roles or just become more civically engaged around issues that they cared about. Now, as you can see from that kind of work, it can be extremely fulfilling, and it was. So my last day on my job was actually very recent. It was March 31st, but I'll come back to how I got to that. What led me to making that decision was something very unexpected. Now, while I knew that I would not always be working a full-time job because I wanted to give more attention to my daughter and to the businesses and the creative projects that were on my heart, I did not expect to be transitioning from my job at the time that I did. But the first domino that kind of made everything else fall and lead to me making that decision was a childcare situation. Like many parents out there, when COVID hit, schools shut down, daycare centers shut down. If you were not an essential worker, you could not get childcare. And for families like me who had nannies or au pairs, it just became even more of a challenge because nobody wanted to come into someone else's home with COVID out there. So we always had an au pair. We had to decide either to get another au pair, to send my daughter to school full time, to hire a nanny, or to free myself up to go and take care of her at home without working a full-time job. So making the decision to leave was a challenge, and I'm very grateful that I have a husband that has progressed in his career and he's able to take care of us. I have that type of support, so I feel really blessed that that is my reality. But I also know that there's still a calling on my life, and like many women last year and this year had to face off with that decision to either build their career and live out their calling or step away and focus on their family. And I learned something really eye-opening about that I'll share later in the video. So March 31st came and I felt excited and somewhat numb. I didn't know what to expect because remember, all along I was working full-time, focused on my work, doing my best and trying to leave my team in a good place. March 31st was on a Wednesday. April 1st was on a Thursday, and it was my first day off of my job. When April 1st hit, my body and mind and all of me felt like I had been hit by a truck. Now, my work was not physical. I told you I was in leadership development. I did public speaking, coaching, training, facilitating, designing, and planning. None of this involved physical labor. But on April 1st, when I woke up that morning, I was completely exhausted and I could not understand why. I had this little 3-year-old girl who was bright and ready to move and do and have fun, and I was completely exhausted. And in retrospect, I realized that I had been pushing myself too hard. I realized that while I was so focused on doing a good job at my work and leaving my team in a good place, I crossed the line with my self-care and my own health, and I didn't realize it. And for those of you who are like me, that really want to serve and really want to do your best and really sometimes do that at the expense of your own self and your own health, here's a lesson that I like to share. Just please avoid that. Don't be like me and have your body almost shut down or force you to stop because you're not paying attention. So April 1st was a really hard day, and it just didn't make sense. So all I did was rest. I kept my daughter entertained and engaged as much as I could, but I rested. And then Friday came, April 2nd, and it was like I was a new woman. My body felt better. I had more energy. Me and my daughter had a great day and a great time. So, fast forward a couple weeks. Remember, I left my job, not having another job lined up, not really having a plan. So what I decided to do, or what I ended up doing, was taking a couple weeks to just be. Now, I do have a business, Heartstrings Timeless Sentiments, and I had been talking to people about wanting to do some coaching and some leadership development, and I did have a potential contract that was coming down the pike, but I needed to reset because, like I said, I had been going and going and going as a mother, as a wife, as an employee, as a minister, and serving at my church. I just was going and going and going. And when I left my job, I really quickly realized that I could not continue to operate in the mindsets and in the ways that I used to operate working and having a full-time job. So I took about 3 or 4 weeks to just be. And what I mean by that is I spent time with my daughter. I spent time getting some things around the house in order to help me feel more free and at peace. And then I just began to look around and notice, what is the new rhythm of my family? What is the rhythm of my life now? What do I need? What does my family need? Where do we need to be going in the future? And so when I emerged from those 3 weeks of thinking about that, I realized a couple things. One, that I must protect the reason why I left my job. Now, the reason why I left, again, was to focus more on pouring into my daughter and to begin to focus on building my business. I did not want to go back to where I came from, because as an entrepreneur, as a mother, as a spouse, it is very easy to get sucked back in to serving in all those ways and neglecting yourself. And you know, when you neglect yourself, you're not any good to anyone, let alone good to yourself. And so I realized the importance of protecting the reason why I left. And secondly, what I just alluded to, I learned the importance of taking care of myself so that I can serve well and so that I can be an asset to those that are around me. And so I took those 2 things, just 2 small things, and I began to jot down a family schedule and a time map. And where I landed with my schedule and my time map was time for myself. I scheduled in think time. I scheduled in playtime with my daughter. I scheduled in date night time. So all these things that I had been neglecting for so many years, I finally was deciding to focus on them and being meaningful and purposeful with prioritizing them and not just hoping that they'll happen or thinking that they'll happen. One of the myths that I discovered with leaving your full-time job is you'll have more free time. Now, I thought this. I think I subconsciously thought that, okay, when I leave my job, I'll have more time to work out. We're gonna be, me and my daughter are gonna be going to the museum and the park every day. I'm gonna have all this energy. We're gonna go on all these date nights, and I'm gonna have so much free time. Well, as you can tell from my sarcasm, that was not the case. And what I realized is when you have a full-time job, you are dictated what your schedule is, your start and end time, your tasks are set up for you. There's a certain level of expectation. Everything is prescribed for you when you have a job, and there's nothing wrong with that. And it's good if you can excel and give in that way. But when you don't work a full-time job, when you're a full-time stay-at-home mom, or you run a business, or whatever it is you do outside of a full-time job, it actually requires more effort, more discipline, and more structure. Because what I realized is when you don't assign and prescribe your time for yourself, your time just vanishes. It goes away. And that's one of the things that I noticed in those first 3 weeks of being off work, that, oh my gosh, I would wake up some days and think, okay, we have the whole day. Then next thing you know, it's 10 o'clock at night and the laundry is not done, or I haven't played with my daughter, and I'm looking like, well, what happened to the day? In many cases, it was because I did not tell my time where to go. I did not assign my time. So just because you don't work a full-time job doesn't mean that the floodgates of time and energy are just gonna overflow you. It's not the case. Another thing that I learned is that when you make a decision like this to leave your job and shift to living with purpose, on purpose, for purpose, it's gonna also require more of you. It's gonna demand that you get crystal clear on what do you wanna do? Why do you wanna leave this job? If this isn't a healthy environment for you, if this isn't what you want to do, what is it? And if you're thinking about leaving your job and feeling like it's time for you to make a change, I would encourage you to ask yourself those questions. What is the place of health, joy, and peace for you? What is your purpose? What is the work that you want to do? What do you want to do to serve the world? Because, like I said at the beginning of the video, you can find so many blogs and vlogs and articles about the joys of leaving your job and I quit and yay, happy days are here. But I bet you, if you sat down and asked each of those vloggers and article writers and bloggers what the process looked like, they had to get to that place of joy. Yes, there is an immediate release. Yes, there is an immediate sense of freedom and relief. But once that wears off, then you have to get to work, even though you don't have a boss and you don't have a full-time job, because now you have more responsibility. You have responsibility of handling your finances in a different way, of handling your time in different ways, of handling your energy in different ways. It's a completely different game. And if you are a person that's into excelling and growing your family and growing your business and growing in the ways that you serve, it is going to demand more from you. So don't believe the hype when people tell you that, oh, the world is going to be your oyster. It will be, but you're going to have to crack that oyster to get to the goodness. So what am I going to be doing now? Well, since I left my job and I've done this internal work and I've been engaging in some coaching, what's going to be next for me is continuing to give in this way. As you all know, I've been wanting to get serious about my YouTube channel for years, and just so that I can be an encouragement and share my stories and my experiences in hopes to encourage and push someone forward to do something that's in line with their vision. So I'm going to be posting videos more consistently. Also, I'm going to be digging more into my coaching business. I'm also going to be writing a couple books, and all of this is in alignment with my purpose here on earth. Like I mentioned to you all before in my welcome video, I am naturally an encourager. And I know for me that I was put on this earth to encourage, to help you find your inspiration, help you find your motivation to live out your purpose and to do the internal work. That way, when you have filled yourself up, the rest of your life will overflow from the abundance of the internal work that you've done. So I'm so blessed and excited to be able to be even in more alignment with my purpose in life. And another thing that I want to say for those of you who are feeling that you're ready to leave your job, is that it is not a fairy tale. I understand that everyone's situation is different. For me, for example, I have the support of a spouse that is able to, pick up the load while I'm not working a full-time job, or while my business is beginning to grow and develop. And I don't apologize for that, and I'm not ashamed about that. But it takes a lot of thought and planning. I know sometimes when you're in a very unhealthy and toxic situation, then the planning and execution of that is going to look a little bit different, because your life and your health are more valuable. But I would just encourage you to not burn a bridge. Like, I've seen videos out there of people just leaving in all kinds of wild and crazy ways. But my encouragement to you is to never burn a bridge. Just like your grandma and my grandma used to say, you never know if you're going to have to walk back across that bridge. And even more so than that, we are all humans, and all of us have flaws. Anything that goes on in the world, once you involve humans, you can expect messiness, you can expect flaws, and you can expect that there needs to be some things that need to be worked out. So I would encourage you to never burn a bridge, and never treat your manager or your company in ways that you wouldn't want to be treated. Even if they have treated you unfairly. And I know that's a really, really hard saying, but when you add fire to more fire, you just get a bigger fire. And trust me, if someone is doing you wrong, if someone is neglecting you or abusing you or mistreating you, you better believe that they are going to reap that. They might look like they're getting away with it now, but trust me, God and sowing, the law of attraction and sowing and reaping, has a way of coming back to them. And not to say that we get excited when those that have hurt us on our job do us wrong, when they suffer, but it's just a fact of life. And it is not your job to get revenge. It is not your job to show them. The reason why you are leaving your job is to take your life back. It's to take charge of your life. It is not connected to what someone else does or what someone else thinks. If your reason for leaving your job is anything else outside of you wanting to take ownership of your life and to live more in your purpose and to get to the place of health, happiness, and joy, then I would encourage you to purge all of that, because if you do not, whatever you go into next will be contaminated by those feelings of animosity, of revenge, of deep hurts, of all the toxic things that might be plaguing you. I would encourage you, before you step into anything else, to purge all of that, because I don't want the things that you're going to be building, the next job that you're going to take, how you're going to be serving your family. I wouldn't want any of that to be contaminated. So please, focus on what's in your locus of control, and don't compare yourself to what other people's experience are. Like I said, there's so many videos out there about how to quit your job and when to know when to quit. You know when it is time. You know when you're feeling that nudge, and it is very uncomfortable. But if you want to grow and to be successful and to realize that vision that's in your head and your heart, you know when it's time to step out. And it's not going to be comfortable, but it's going to feel like a release. So I'll stop with that, because there's a lot more that I could say. I shared so much, but when it comes to taking back your life, I am so excited to get to share my story with you. Please share your thoughts and your questions that you have for me in the comments section, and I'd be more than happy to respond to those. And like I always remind you, if you start with the hard work first, everything else will be easy. I'll see you next time. Bye.